Let's talk about AI memory. What is it really? I mean, it's not just about remembering facts, right? It's about using that knowledge over time. And it turns out there's some brand new research that shows a huge hidden flaw in how we've been thinking about AI intelligence.
All right, let me just throw this out there. What if I told you we're testing AI memory all wrong? I mean, completely, fundamentally wrong. That's the wild idea we're digging into today, and it's all based on some pretty eye-opening new research.
So let's get into it. Section 1, the broken memory test. The main problem, and it's actually pretty simple when you think about it, is that our tests just don't get how memory and action are supposed to work together in the real world. And because of that, we've got this massive blind spot in how we understand AI.
So how are we testing AI right now? Well, it's kind of split into two separate things. On one hand, we test its recall. We give it a huge document and ask, can you find this one specific fact? And on the other hand, we test its action. We'll say, hey, can you complete this one task, like booking a flight? See the problem? We're looking at memorization and decision-making completely separately.
Here's a great way to think about it. It's like grading a chef on how well they can memorize a recipe word for word, but you never actually taste the food they cook. It's crazy, right? We're totally missing the most important piece of the puzzle. Can they actually use that knowledge to do something useful? And that's the big gap in our testing.
Okay, so that brings us to the solution that these researchers came up with. It's a new benchmark, and they call it Memory Arena. Basically, it's designed to fix this broken system by creating a way more realistic and, frankly, a much, much harder challenge for AI.
At the heart of Memory Arena is this idea called the Memory Agent Environment Loop. It sounds complicated, but it's really a continuous cycle. Okay, follow me here. The AI agent takes an action. The environment it's in gives it feedback. That feedback then updates the AI's memory, and then that new and improved memory guides its next action. It's this loop that finally forces memory and action to actually work together, hand in hand.
And here's the easiest way to picture it. In this loop, an AI's actions aren't just one and done anymore. No way. What it does in session 1 directly sets the stage. It creates the context and the rules for what it has to remember to succeed in session 3 or 5 or even 10. The tasks are all connected. They're interdependent.
So what does this super tough new test actually look like in practice? Well, Memory Arena is made up of 4 really tough challenges. Each one is designed to push AI memory to its absolute breaking point, but in totally different ways. Challenge number 1, bundled web shopping. Just imagine telling an AI to buy you a new camera setup. So in the first session, it buys the camera body. Great. But then, a little while later, it needs to buy a lens. Now here's the kicker. It has to remember the exact camera it bought earlier to make sure the new lens is compatible. It's all about remembering your past choices to make the right ones in the future.
All right, next up, group travel planning. And this one is even harder. The AI starts by planning a trip for just one person, but then a second person joins the group and they have new preferences that depend on the first person's plan. Something like, I want a hotel that's rated 2 stars higher than whatever Tracy got. The AI has to remember the original plan and constantly juggle these new, interconnected rules.
The third challenge is called progressive web search. In this one, the AI has to find an answer by doing a whole series of searches. But here's the twist. Each new search adds another condition it has to remember from the last one. You can think of it like a detective slowly gathering clues over time. If you forget a single clue from an earlier step, you're never going to solve the case.
And finally, we have the ultimate test, sequential formal reasoning. This is intense. The AI is asked to solve really complex, multi-step math and physics problems. We're talking stuff pulled directly from academic research papers. Every single step, every conclusion builds logically on the one that came before it. If it fails to remember the answer from step 2, then step 3 is completely impossible. There's no way to move forward. Okay, so we've got this incredibly difficult, brand new test. The big question, of course, is how did today's top AIs actually do? This is where things get really interesting. Before I even show you the numbers, I have to say the results showed this huge, almost shocking gap between what we think these AIs can do and what they can actually pull off when their memory's really put to the test. Okay, just look at this table. It lays out the average success rates for even the most advanced AI agents out there. For bundled web shopping, a measly 2% success rate. Progressive web search, a little better, at around 9%. But then look at group travel planning. The success rate was basically 0. Yeah, you heard me right, 0. Even in formal reasoning, which was its best subject, it still failed way more often than it succeeded.
If you want to boil it all down to one single brutal number, here it is. The overall average success rate for all the different methods across all of these realistic tasks was less than 2%. That is an incredible result. It just goes to show how fragile and unreliable AI memory is at this moment.
So, why did they fail so badly? Well, this graph right here tells the whole story. Performance decay. You've got the success rate on the vertical axis and the number of steps in the task on the horizontal. And just look at that sharp, punishing drop-off. The longer a task went on, the more steps it involved, the more the AI's performance just fell off a cliff. Its memory was failing under the pressure.
So what's the big takeaway here? Why does any of this matter for the future of AI and for, all of us who might be relying on it someday?
It really boils down to this. First, today's AI memory is incredibly brittle. It just shatters when it faces complex multi-step jobs. Second, just being able to recall facts is not the same thing as knowing how to use them. And finally, if we want to build the truly helpful, reliable AI agents we're all dreaming about, we absolutely have to solve this long-term memory problem. And it's realistic tests like Memory Arena that are going to show us the way.
And all of this really leaves us with one big question to chew on. We've seen that an AI can store information, sure, but what's it going to take for an AI to go beyond just simple recall? To not just remember what it did in the past, but to actually learn from its own experience? That, right there, is the huge challenge that's still ahead of us.